Good morning everyone, Jason here, and in this video, I will be showing you how to create opacity maps for both Unity and Unreal Engine. For this demo, I will be using a simple window model. You can download the window model in the video description below. Before I move on to creating opacity maps, I would first like to show you how to export different maps in Substance Painter. To do so, go to File, Export Textures, and go to the Configuration tab. Inside the Configuration tab, you can select the preset that you want to configure. In this case, I am selecting the Unity 5 Standard Metallic preset. While in the preset menu, you can create other output maps. In this example, I will create an ambient occlusion output map and a height output map. To do so, I click on the grey button that is beside the Create. I'm using grey for both ambient occlusion and height because they are grayscale maps to begin with. I copy and paste the names and change the suffix to represent the map type that I'm exporting. This is so that the naming convention for all the files are the same. Once I'm done, I go back to the Export tab. The changes might not be reflected immediately, so you may need to select another preset and reselect the one that you have just configured again to see the changes. Alright, I have imported the model and textures into my Unity scene, but I want the glass on the window to be translucent. One approach is to create the opacity map using Photoshop. I open the albedo targa file that I've exported from the Substance Painter software, and I also import in the UV file that I rendered using 3D Studio Max. I invert the colors on the UV file and set it to a multiply blend mode so that I can reference it later. Next, I create a layer folder and name it opacity. Inside the folder, I insert a white fill layer. The way this works is the same as the alpha mask in Photoshop, meaning to say white equals to opaque, black equals to transparent, and grey equals to translucent. I begin to fill the areas accordingly. You can also use custom brushes to add texture onto your opacity map. Once that is done, duplicate the opacity folder and merge it. Press Ctrl A to do a select all and Ctrl C to do a copy. Go to the Channel tab. It should be beside the Layer tab in the default Photoshop layout. However, if you don't see it, you can also go to Window, Channel. Click on the New Channel button. It will create a new alpha channel. Do a Ctrl V to paste in the opacity information. Switching back to Unity, select your material and set the rendering mode to fade. Make sure you update the textures. And there you have it. You should be able to see your opacity map in Unity. Next, let's examine how we can create opacity maps within Substance Painter. In the Texture Set Settings panel, add in the opacity channel. This change will be updated on the smart materials that you have used in the document so far. However, you may not be able to preview the opacity within the viewport. The easiest way to see it is to isolate the opacity channel. As you can see, just like in Photoshop, Substance treats opacity in the same way, meaning to say white equals to opaque, black equals to transparent, and grey equals to translucent. First, let's add some blood stains on the glass. I create a fill layer and uncheck everything except the color and opacity channels. Next, I add a black mask and a generator. I select the gradient generator. I then add another generator. This time I select the dripping rust generator. I move the gradient generator above the dripping rust generator and set the blend mode to be multiply. I do this because I want the blood to be concentrated at the bottom of the glass. I play around with the parameters on the dripping rust generator until I am happy with the end result. I also tweak the opacity slider as I want the blood stains to be more opaque than the glass. To create the broken glass, I create a black fill layer. I turn off everything except color and opacity. Now, strictly speaking, the choice of color for this fill layer is not important. However, I prefer to use black as it is less noticeable in the event that the opacity is not well done. Next, I create a black mask. Using the paintbrush tool, I paint out areas where I want the broken part to be. I am painting onto the window pane, but I can easily fix that by reordering the layers. Pressing X while in the paintbrush pool will enable you to swap between white and black so that you can easily edit the shape. Another thing that I can do in Substance is to add in additional window pane dividers and patterns. I add in another painted steel smart material and apply a black mask. With mirror mode on, I draw in the subdivisions. To draw straight lines, hold the Shift key while in brush mode. To have better controls of your curves while in paintbrush mode, enable the lazy mouse feature and increase the tracking distance. Lastly, I increase the height value so that the divisions and patterns look slightly more three-dimensional. Once done, I update the textures in Unity. The problem with the standard material in Unity is that it does not support double-side shading, which can be an issue when working with planes. In this case, we can easily fix that by duplicating the glass panel and flipping the normals to face the other side. To make it easier to customize in Unity, you may also want to keep the elements separate, i.e. to say, the glass should be one object and the window plane should be another object. However, when you export it, you can still export as one single FBX file. By doing it this way, you can then assign different materials in Unity to the individual elements. Next, I will show you how to enable opacity within Unreal Engine. I've imported the model and textures into my Unreal project file. Next, I double-click on the material to bring up the material editor. I assign the textures accordingly. The base color will go to the RGB channel of the base color texture. The metallic will go to the green channel of the occlusion metallic roughness texture. For roughness, it will go to the blue channel, and for ambient occlusion, it will go to the red channel. Lastly, I imported in the normal texture and I assigned the normal parameter to the RGB channel of the normal texture. You notice that the default material does not include opacity. For that, we need to create another material. Instead of creating from scratch, we will duplicate from the current material that we have. I will rename it glass to avoid confusion. Double click on the glass material and scroll down to the blend mode. Select translucent. In this mode, metallic, roughness and normal maps are disabled, but opacity is enabled. Link the opacity parameter to the base color maps alpha channel. Unlike Unity, however, you can't select the individual components of the model if you have selected the Combine Mesh option in the Model Import dialog box. A simple way to fix this is by assigning material IDs to the model before you export it as an FBX file. Open the model in Maya and open the Hypershade dialog box. Create two Lambert materials and assign a different diffuse color for each of the material. Next, assign the first Lambert material on the window pane and the second Lambert material on the glass. Re-export the model. Import the new model in Unreal Engine. You should immediately see that the engine has automatically created two materials corresponding to how we assign them in Maya. Assign the Unreal Engine materials that we have created previously to the corresponding materials on the model. And there we have it, opacity maps visible in Unreal Engine.